Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to KML. My name is Joe Griefkes. I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Activities at KML. So thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate those of you joining us in person and also those of you that are watching us virtually. Just a reminder, if you did not sign in using the QR code when you came in, if you could please take a picture. All the doors have QR codes. If you could take a picture of the QR code and sign in before you leave, that would be fantastic. All right, getting things going here, I just want to introduce you to our activities department, our ever-growing activities department. We're blessed at KML to have a school that is going to begin with 30 more students than we had last year, and potentially some more that will still join us in the coming weeks. We're blessed this year to be able to say that our activities department has grown. So myself, again, serving as Director of Activities. Mrs. Amy Noss greeted you on the way in. She's our main athletic assistant. We have a couple activities assistants. Mrs. Michelle Zock is tenured in her position. This is her 5th year at KML. And then Jenny Hostetler, some of you may know Jenny from the front office. She is also going to be helping out in an expanded role with some different things in the activities office. I think a lot of you know our Junior Chargers AD, Buddy Recker, if you have your children involved in our youth program. He is also picking up more duties within our activities role as we try to continue to mesh our junior and our high school programs. Virtual guests, just a reminder that we are asking you to take the athlete quiz afterwards. That would be an athlete logging in with their KML login to take that quiz, just to show you listen to the big details. All right, at KML, obviously, we're built on more than just sports and academics and everything great about our facility and our campus. We're built on God's Word, and these culture words unite us. These are culture words that we're very proud of and we live by. They're not just words on a wall. They're not just words you see throughout our building. They're words that we expect you to hold us to, and we expect everything to be reciprocated in the way our athletes and our students conduct themselves, the way our parents act and react in the stands, and how our leadership responds and reacts to any and every given situation. We should be responding with gratefulness, humility, integrity, unity, drive, and support, and that's what joins us together and makes us known as the One KML family. And we're happy that you are all part of that this year. This is just a general slide, kind of hits on most of what I've already spoken to. Probably the bottom is very important, so if you give your attention to that bottom bullet point, everything's not always sunshine and rainbows, right? So there will be issues, questions, concerns at time. We just ask you to go about it in a logical and orderly way. So if you have a freshman on a freshman boys soccer team and some issue arises with practice or something that happened in that practice, we would ask that you first have your athlete talk to the coach about that issue. If it goes beyond that, then obviously we would encourage parents to reach out to the given coach of that program. Then the next step would be the head coach within that program, so that would be our varsity coach. So my boys' soccer example would be Coach Mark Nolte. Then if it doesn't resolve itself, obviously there's always a point where I may have to get involved and help remedy a situation. We're just asking that you follow Matthew 18, which says go to that person, talk to that person about the issue. We found a lot in life, as I'm sure you have, when we just talk through things. Generally we can come to a resolution much quicker. Today is really a quick covering of our parent-athlete handbook. Don't worry, I'm not going to be an hour. I'm not going to go through every detail. You all have a link. Everything is available on kmlchargers.com. Our handbook is there. It is all updated for this year. Quick program info. We are growing. We have 20 sport offerings and 42 separate squads. We now have intramural programs, which started last year at KML. I'll talk a little bit about that. And we also co-op for a couple different sports with different schools within Washington County. If you have not been in the high school world, the conference thing is ever evolving, ever changing, and hard to keep track of. So I always like to remind folks who's actually in our athletic conference. So we have 7 member schools as of now, and as you're looking at that list, obviously most of you are aware of West Bend East and West and what's happening with them, and no, I do not know. I don't have any inside info. Obviously the schools are merging. I don't know who the AD is going to be, the superintendent, the mascot, honestly, the colors. I don't think even a lot of the leaders within those programs know at this point in time, but when they join, obviously then that will change our dynamic. We are bringing Grafton in but we will still be short. Most conferences, the goal is to have 8 schools within a conference for all sorts of scheduling things. So we're hoping to get there within the next couple years. Football, not to confuse you, is totally different. So in the state of Wisconsin, the WIA views all the other sports and then football. So the way football realigns and how they come up with conferences is totally different from all the other sports. So if you want to just take note, if you do have a football player, obviously this is more relevant for you. So this year, the new schools we're playing against are Grafton and Nicolet. The other schools are regular member teams of our Glacier Trails Conference. Just want to make you aware, there is a conference website. We do pay graphic design individual to manage that website and their Facebook and Instagram pages as well. They have student athlete spotlights from time to time where they'll feature different student athletes within the conference. They update our conference records and just general scores and standings within the conference, so a helpful site as well. Most of you have done this already, so I don't want you to see this registration process slide and worry that you haven't done something. This is new as of last year. The easiest way for me to say it is we have all those different teams, all those different programs, and in past years, like coaches would be sending out all these Google forms, and it was hard for us to actually know like who is actually officially registered. Obviously, we have all the athletic paperwork, but we want to get ahead of registration as soon as we can. So this was actually put out the end of spring. This is something that went out in a physical mailer. There was an electronic information that went out. It was in the KML weekly several different times, just asking you to register for fall, winter, or spring. So if you haven't done that for fall yet, we would ask that you do that. There's a list of, we already have like 140 athletes signed up for the fall, so we're feeling pretty good about our sign up. Winter and spring are open already, so if you've only signed up for fall, great. If you know for sure your child is going to play in the winter, 100%, you can sign them up as well. At the end of the day, if you sign them up and they don't actually do the sport, it's okay. We eventually get to a point where we figure that out. But for us in our activities department, it's a screening process to make sure we have all the right people in all the right spots, and we've got all the behind the scenes taken care of. So that is available. I'll say this a couple times. KMLchargers.com, and then you go to more. If you've never been to our website, you can only put so many things on the top. We wish they'd let us put more tabs, but they give us more. And then under more, there's a whole pile of many, many different things under the more tab. So for this given one, you would want to go to athletic paperwork. That's where you want to make sure your child's medical paperwork was all good, and there's the registration info there by season. I kept this one on my slideshow. This was a new opportunity last year. I put this out there for any students who are potentially athletes, but maybe of other seasons, or maybe you're not an athlete and this is something that interests you. So last year we started a game day production team. This is individuals who are interested in digital media, and they want to help with some of our game day productions concerning our field house. So we call it the Jumbotron, the KML Jumbotron, and there's a lot of stuff that happens, from player headshots to senior night to player intros to statistics, in-game and post-game. There's all sorts of things that game day production team does. If that interests you, any of those things that are noted there, we'd love to have you be a part of that. Mr. Rabbers, who is running our live stream tonight, is the leader of that group. Intramurals has been a great blessing to KML. Last year, we ran 4 different sports during our intramural season. Didn't quite stretch the full year, and this year we're excited that our intramural program will stretch the full year. So that's basketball, we got volleyball, we've got pickleball and a couple other different things planned out during the year. Mrs. Albrecht and Mrs. Schrader are again our intramural leaders, and as those opportunities arise, they will make sure that they send out sign-up information. But just been a great blessing. Last year we saw over 90 kids get involved in intramurals that potentially would have been doing nothing outside of intramurals, so a pretty awesome thing. This is our second year of being in a lacrosse co-op, so we co-op with West Bend Rush for boys and girls lacrosse. Co-ops are a little bit different because there is a larger fee attached to a co-op. Obviously, the coaches are not KML coaches, but because we're in Washington County, this is something that we can benefit from as well. So JV and varsity levels are offered. You can see the cost there. This sign-up happens during our sign-up, but then it's handled a little bit differently because this co-op is under the auspices of West Bend West. Currently is the main, you have to have a main school in charge of the co-op, and West Bend West and Brendan Connolly is in charge of lacrosse. In boys hockey, another co-op opportunity that we have here at KML, we are allowed to have boys participate in this. We do not yet have co-op opportunity for girls to participate in hockey, but there is potential down the road we may. You can see the participation fee there, obviously is not a small one. We were thankful to have 6 kids involved in our hockey co-op last year, so that was the most that we've had in our 2 years. And then again, West Bend West and Coach Mike Driscoll, they are the main contacts for Ice Bears hockey. Our website is undergoing another change. This has been a migration because of one tech company bought out another tech company. And if you know anything about when that happens, it's never super fun. So if you've tried to go to all the normal spots, if you're a tenured parent, and find our old athletic schedule and facility use information, what rooms are being used, at what times, when do things end, it is a little bit clunkier. They've been working on it. They've been listening to our feedback for almost a year now. There are still things that we want better, that we need changed. Main things we've noticed between the app and the desktop would be the desktop right now, you can see a lot more. The app, you can see a lot less. So the app, for example, does not show end times, whereas the desktop does. There's some filtering issues, so if your parents who in the past you really liked that I could filter by boys soccer, all the practices, picture day, all the games, everything, and you could embed that and put it on your iCal or link it up to your Gmail, your Google Calendar. Right now, yeah, you can do it, but it's a little clunky, so it's not talking to our Arbiter site like it should. We have another in-person meeting with a rep actually within a week, and we're hoping to continue to get answers, and we hope they continue to make the system better. If you go to our athletic website and you just go, bam, right to schedule, just know those are not always going to be perfectly, beautifully accurate, and they're not going to have the full schedule. If you want the full schedule, we encourage you to go to More, Chargers HQ, and then Athletic Schedule. And then we've got the different athletic schedules linked for you. KMLHS.org, if you're more familiar with the school website, and you just go to school calendar, it's going to take you to the same public calendar. Once you get there, you can filter by sport. The downside is if you have kids in like JV2 and varsity, you have to click different spots. And I know some of our parents want all the stuff in the same spot, so just be aware that we know probably way more than we want to know. If you are having issues, reach out, but we continue to work on some challenges with the Arbiter site. We do have KML activity participation costs, so this was a big thing last year because we standardized all of our costs. We used to have some sports you'd pay way more for, some things you'd pay way less for. Some fine arts groups you would pay for, other fine arts groups were free. This was basically a year's study looking at all of our activities and trying to get to a decent number for participation. So we standardized with our business department our fees per activity, and everything across the board is $75. And that's all added to your family tuition accounts via Blackbaud, which is something you set up, every student sets up through the registration process. All right, we're continuing with digital ticketing at KML. This used to be cutting edge news like 5 years ago. So if you're new to us, we're still doing it for our concessions and admissions and for our Chargerwear apparel. On our website, again, if you go to all of those same links, More, and then Chargers HQ, then under admissions, that's where you can go to purchase season passes. That's probably the first thing we would heavily encourage. If you know you're going to make most of your child's games, it makes sense for you to purchase either individual or family season passes. We've done the math, and in general, depending on the sport, most of the time it saves you around 20% if you're going to come to everything. So definitely something you want to look into. Otherwise, we have our separate daily rates noted there for you. Season passes, I kind of put everything there. This is also on our website, so I won't spend a ton of time on it. All right, student athletes, as far as you go, obviously, when you are a high school student athlete, there are a lot of things that are much different than when you are a grade school athlete. Some of those things are blessings, some of those things are challenges. When you start, you establish full eligibility as a WI athlete. So that lasts 4 years, and that covers all of the sports. That also means that there are other rules and stipulations that you have to follow now being a WI athlete. So one example would be if you are, I'm just going to say volleyball. If you're a volleyball player at KML and you have club season going on, you're only allowed to be in 2 club events, that could be tournaments or games, during your high school interscholastic volleyball season. So same sport, same club deal, you're only allowed 2 club events. And you have to there's a whole form you have to fill out. I sign off on it once I've talked with our coaches. It's approved and you're good to go. Beyond those 2, then that's an eligibility violation. So outside of volleyball, like most of club volleyball season is outside of our high school volleyball season, you're going to have all sorts of games and tournaments, and that's no problem. So it's only when those same sports line up exactly that this pertains. All right, number 1, we want our student athletes to get involved. So we continue to try to add opportunities, athletic support, like our game day production team, to encourage our athletes and ultimately students to be involved in a variety of activities. Probably the biggest thing for me to say is at KML, we do believe you should be able to do, wind symphony and be able to run track at the same time. That's the philosophy of our school. Now, if you get the lead role in the musical, can you be a starter on the boys varsity team at the same time? It's probably going to be really tough. So we like to be honest that, we have a school philosophy that we say these things can happen. It makes it more challenging when you have 2 big lead roles like that. It's happened a few times, and it's always dependent on who that student athlete is. Are they super organized? Are they on top of grades? Are they a great communicator? If so, it can happen. Other times it makes it a little more challenging. Students who quit, there is a policy. We don't often have to use it. It's just one I like to point out. So if we get, let's just say 3 weeks into boys soccer season, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. We're going to say probably the same thing your parents are going to say, which is you need to stick it out. It's a commitment. It's something you've signed up for. We're not talking about, I broke my leg 2 weeks into the football season. Do I have to hang around for the whole season? Those are extenuating circumstances. Obviously, there's stuff that comes up. But in general, we believe in school and in life, once you sign up for something, people are depending on it, counting on it. There's lots of work being done behind the scenes to make sure you're clear and you're ready to roll. So we do encourage our students, if you're involved, get involved and then stay involved. So we do have a couple violations I like to point out. These are the 2 big ones that I deal with the most. So we have unbecoming conduct. Those are basically the in-between things that are clearly stated as you shouldn't be doing it, but they have happened. So it could be pattern of incomplete work. Obviously, we care about you as a student first. Could be truancy. You've missed 20 of the first 40 days of school. Hazing, things like that we take very seriously. Those would be considered unbecoming conduct. And those are things that myself and our Director of Student Culture, Dan Albrecht, that we work through mainly. We're the boots on the ground, you might say, as some of those issues potentially rise to our level. Conduct violations, I guess you might say, are the more quote-unquote serious ones. Drug use, possession, buying, selling, alcohol use during season. Those would be considered conduct violations. Our handbook outlines a bunch of different things and obviously doesn't cover everything. First offense, if it's a violation, is a 20% loss of participation. Second one is up to 50, and then the third one could be you're done with that sport forever. It's never happened, and I'm hoping it never does happen, but we've never gotten to that point. Usually we have enough things in place before that, parent support, that we can usually help get the athlete back on the right track. The biggest thing here is just know that the code of conduct, both WIA and KML's code of conduct, take effect as soon as you start. So day 1, Whether your sport starts in the winter or your sport doesn't start early like girls golf and volleyball and other things, you start a little bit later. As soon as you are a student in school, and this covers the summer, it's a full wraparound for 4 years, all of the code of conduct applies. Social media use, obviously what you're posting on TikTok reflects KML because people know you, they know your parents, they know what groups you're involved with, especially if you're posting with a team, which is great. There's tons of positive and God-pleasing and amazing ways to use social media, but just always an encouragement to use social media in proper ways. We've had to, just being totally blunt, like we've had to deal with bullying, we've had to deal with all sorts of different accusations and things that just, in the world of social media become all-encompassing and really tough to work through. So just really encouraging you to start on a good note, super positive throughout your 4 years here. All right, Act 89 is new, and there are other acts that fall under it. I had some coaches here at KML think that when I said this to them for the first time that it was a Joe Griefkes rule or a KML thing. It is not. This is state legislature. This is something every school in the state of Wisconsin has to now abide by. So this happened end of 2025, takes effect this school year. Basically, it's an anti-grooming series of legislature to make sure that our leaders are effectively, positively, and appropriately communicating with our students. And this is not just student athletes, this is students altogether. So you'll probably hear Mr. Albrecht and others hit on this as well. So if you look at Wisconsin Act 88 and Act 57, and then down to Statute 48.981, basically says all of us are mandatory reporters. This actually goes from the janitors to the volunteers to the administrators and everybody, you might say, in between there. So there are ways that we can appropriately communicate with athletes, with students overall. Obviously, using a school email is one way to do that. Google Chat is going to be the big thing that our athletes are encouraged to keep on their phones. There's been a lot of different ways teams have communicated with different platforms, and some teams, even groups would set up different Snapchat groups and stuff like that. Ultimately, none of that can happen. So coaches should not be text messaging your athletes. Teachers should not be text messaging your students. Volunteers within programs, if they're under our umbrella, and employees or representatives of KML should not textually be communicating in any of those ways. Our organization is all Gmail, Google Chat. A lot of our teams set up Google Classrooms. I'm the head track coach, that's what we do. And then if there's anything virtual needing to happen, it should be through Google Meet. The big reason is because we have educational oversight of all of those things. There's, you might say, Big Brother tracking for good reason within all of those things. And so all of the messaging is something that is under our umbrella. I think the second one is probably the bluntest we can say it. How should our leaders not digitally communicate with students any other way? So just to be totally clear, coaches and stuff can talk to parents and parent groups till the sun goes down. That's different. If there are students mixed in with parents, that can't happen. So anything involving students can't happen in a textual way unless it's outlined here. Parent group chats per sports, that may happen, just for quickness sometimes of information, and that's okay. Students, you can all still talk to each other however you want. That doesn't matter. This is just representatives of KML and how we textually communicate with your students. All right? So anything inappropriate, like we've been training it this summer, but if there are any inappropriate communications that arise, we're all saying it till we're blue in the face, that we need to know about that. We are held to a reporting standard that we need to report that within 24 hours, and then if it's a weekend, I believe it's within 48 hours. So Mr. Albrecht is our main person to report that to. All right, we have all sorts of risk management. I will save you me telling you all this information. Just know, obviously, we mitigate risk here at KML as much as we can. A lot of that happens through athletic paperwork, and then what we do. One of our biggest things is making sure that as our athletes travel, they're covered. Again, that was in your athletic paperwork. that we as a school provide school transportation. 98% of the time that does happen using a KML van or a KML bus. And then Nicole Volkman is, you might say, one of our biggest assistants with this. She is our licensed athletic trainer through Aurora Healthcare. The huge blessing to you as parents, and I've experienced this as a parent, is that Nicole can do free injury analysis. So even with non-KML students, if you're here for a football game and one of your younger kids gets hurt, Nicole, obviously if she's sidelined, please don't go talk to her, but outside of when she's actively working, she is able to do free injury analysis out of her office. She's able to connect with doctors. So if you go to Freighter or you're not Aurora and your kid gets a PT plan or return to play plan, she will communicate directly with PT, with doctors, with whomever, with consent on your behalf. So just a huge blessing to our student athletes that she can hopefully save some doctor visits and assist with things before they potentially get to that level of needing a doctor. All right, absences, huge thing. We need students to attend all classes on the day of an activity, and that includes practices, rehearsals, performances, any given thing occurring. If you're in an activity group, we need you there for the full day. So if you sleep in first and second hour, and you're coming back third hour, and you're hoping that you're going to be able to go to, football practice, it's not going to happen because school is first and foremost. So we just want to make that really clear. We need all of our students fulfilling their role first as students and then as activity participants after that. Friday and the weekend, kind of the way it works is if there is an unexcused, and there are extenuating circumstances, of course, college visits, doctor visits, anything main office approved is good to go. Anything outside of that would be where you would need special permission. So if there's a Friday thing, that does roll into Saturday. So if you miss 7th and 8th hour, then you have a tournament Saturday morning, it would mean that you'd get held out of that unless there's an extenuating circumstance. All right, student-to-teacher communication is huge, so I'm saying that to half of the athletes in the room that you are now part of the communication process with your teachers if you are involved in an activity group. Really good communicators do really well. Students who potentially struggle to communicate may have more issues catching up. So just an early encouragement, make sure your teachers will know when you're coded, like when you get to leave early. They'll know when you have games and stuff. That's not your job to tell them that, but it's more your job to make sure you understand and they understand, hey, what do I need to get done when I was gone? That's what our teachers appreciate. So if there are extenuating circumstances, things you're unsure of, I'll give you an example. We had some kids who struggled with chronic migraines, and so when they would get it, it would be really bad, and usually really early in the morning and really intense. We're talking, trying medications and stuff to make it better. So there were times where they were given special allowances to, hit daylight, wake up, okay, get there. So there are extenuating things if there's medical situations involved. We've had different students who have had challenges regulating diabetes, and they've had to sit in the office for an hour or two. Like, those are all things that we work through. We just want to make sure that we are aware and know about those issues. Challenges, I should say. All right, so eligibility, important to know. We would love for everybody to be, obviously, honors and high honors. 1.6 is the bare minimum. If grades slip below a 1.6, or you have 2 Fs at the end of a semester, then that means you're going to fall into one of these statuses. Ineligible would mean that you're temporarily ineligible and you have 15 days to appeal that. That's a variety of different things that may need to happen to rectify the situation. If you're ineligible, you can go to practice, but you can't compete until your eligibility is restored. And that's through our student services office. They're the managers of all the grades and all the stuff. Incomplete would be, we wrap up a semester. If you're not done within 10 days, you go into incomplete status. That one's a little more serious because it lasts longer and you can't participate in non-classroom activities at all. Meetings, practices, games, etc. So ultimately getting your homework in on time, taking those semester exams, all those things are super important. All right, we do have an overdue work policy. This is the easiest way to say this is the month policy. We believe at KML that if your kid has late work for a month, that there's a bigger issue we need to work through. So we rely on our Learning Center and our Student Services team to work through that. But where my office gets involved is we get reports once we're past 3 weeks in on a weekly basis, and it continues to roll and update the whole year. And we vet and go through that. And as students land on the overdue list, we get involved in, hey, you're on the overdue list. There's a couple different phases. There's the, like, you're almost overdue, and then there's the penalty period. When they're in the penalty period, it means they've had late work for over 4 weeks now. So then what you see in bold kicks in. They're not allowed to participate until their overdue work is done, and they're required to go to our Learning Center every day until their work is finished. If they're in work release later in their years, then this also pulls them out of work release, because obviously getting your homework done is super important. So it's been a blessing at our school. It is a challenge to manage, but obviously as a high school, if late work goes more than a month, then it's going to lead to bigger issues towards the semester. All right, if you're not in the athletic world, you may not have heard that name, image, likeness is now a thing, not only in the NCAA, but also in high school athletics in Wisconsin. So this means there are, you would say, avenues for student athletes to entertain and enter into a name, image, likeness deal. Obviously, this is less than 5% of our state is the current figure, because most student athletes are not going to maybe that level, you might say. But it is something that's permissible as of May last year. Yet there are still a lot of rules. So things in bold are really important to point out. So even if your student athlete is in an NIL deal, they can't appear in a school uniform. They can't promote illegal things per them, like gambling, alcohol, tobacco use. They can't be compensated for a performance. The school can't do that. The people with the NIL deal assisting with that can also not do that. 5 and 6 are important. NIL deals can't interfere with anything academic or athletic as far as team schedules, practices, games, etc. And then the last one, a student athlete cannot utilize or be represented by an agent for their NIL deal. Crazy I have to say that, but that's how the state of Wisconsin voted, and so now it is a reality within our state. This is totally separate, but I put them kind of back to back for a purposeful reason. Student athletes, remember, you are a WIA athlete, and part of this is you are granted eligibility unless there's an eligibility violation. We have a lot of business owners at KML, I'm sure a lot in the room. So business owners, I put this out there as a beware. Be aware that if you have any KML student athlete, like in a uniform or even in, like, let's say a warm-up and it has our school logo on it, and they're in a commercial, they're in a TikTok, they're in a poster, a social media post, and they're identified as a KML student athlete, whether by name or by organization, and they're promoting something, whether intentionally or unintentionally, sales or services, that student athlete could be ineligible. So they could lose their eligibility, they could lose their team's eligibility and capability to participate in the whole WI tournament. It may mean, and it has for some in the state, forfeiting tournament games, season games. So I kind of have to say it is a serious thing because it is a serious thing. This is the stuff that catches the news. You've potentially heard about some different wrestlers, basketball players within the state, that their schools got hit by this. Legislation, lawyers, all the stuff. So I just want to make sure our parents and business owners are super clear so that none of this potentially hits us at KML. All right, school event closings, just know probably the biggest thing is, like, we'll inform you. We'll inform you as fast as we can. Our athletic scheduling software, Arbiter, directly links to our contracts. So as I go into contracts and cancel or modify start times, all of those things live live and they'll automatically be updated. Obviously on social media, we'll do our best to post and update. Coaches should be sending emails as far as what is happening. If things are delayed, if things are changed, if things are canceled. Just please know that, like, if it's a snow day and like, wow, it's terrible, but it's only terrible from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m., there are those days where if we've got a 5:30 p.m. game, we're still going to play. So it's probably best I say that in the bluntest way. Contests aren't automatically canceled if school is closed, so just stay tuned. All right, athletic sponsorship is something that continues to grow here at KML in a positive and beneficial way between us and potentially business owners that send their children to KML. We really revamped our athletic sponsorship program probably 3 years ago is when it went through a total overhaul. So you've potentially seen some of our athletic sponsors on our website, social media posts highlighting special days, special events, website, logos. Also our Jumbotron is kind of the newest thing that we've used to integrate business logos and exposure. So something that my department partners with different business owners in our community. Tracy Schmidt is my main assistant that helps coordinate all the details of athletic sponsorship. And if you're looking for more info, it's at that tab I've referenced a few times, kmlchargers.com. Then you go to More, Chargers HQ, and then athletic sponsorships. Volunteers, we ask our parents to volunteer. It's the best way that we can keep everything going at a low cost is we ask all of our families to sign up for 2 events. You are automatically signed up once your kid signs up, and then you can trade if dates and different things don't work out. This is something that Mrs. Nass manages. She does a great job. Again, if you go to the More and Chargers HQ, you can see the volunteer schedule if you're ever questioning when you're signed up for. But this is something our coach, head coach, and also Mrs. Nass do a good job of communicating. Just help with concessions, admissions, score table, other things. All right, kind of my last thing here is uniforms. We do our best to keep them up to date and in great shape. A lot of them have, potentially decals and other things that are sensitive to washing. So we're just wash them on cold, please, hang dry them, and then return them within a week of the season finishing up. All right, that's all I have for you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your attention. Again, if you didn't sign in, if you could please do that before you leave. And feel free to stick around. I'll be here for probably 15, 20 minutes. Thank you. Have a good night.